Thank you for tuning in to Macroview Television, and welcome to another brand new edition of the Taiwan Outlook, the program that lets you see the different faces and also hear the different voices of Taiwan. I'm your host, Ray Guo. For most of us, we learned our knowledge about space sciences through either a book, good book, or newspaper stories, or through Hollywood movies. Or on the other hand, if you're like me, we occasionally go to an art gallery and enjoy a painting or two. And today on the program, we're very fortunate to have somebody who possesses both of these qualities, the pursuit of space science and also the ability to do an oil painting. And that is Professor Ye Yongxuan, who is a professor of the Institute of Space Science at the National Central University here in Zhongli, Taiwan. Welcome to the program, Professor Yip.
Yes, very nice to be here.
Okay. For most of us, like I said at the very beginning, when we think of the two things, the interest in space sciences and also, on the other hand, the ability to do an oil painting, are really something probably on the polar extreme of each other. You wouldn't think of, somebody possessing both of these qualities, but you certainly do, and you've done both of them very well. And we understand that also, unfortunately, you are also vision impaired because of glaucoma. And the fact of the matter remains is this is a very difficult thing for you to do both of them. The academic pursuit in space sciences and also at the same time to do oil painting. How did you develop an interest in both of them?
Okay, to answer your question, the similarity between painting and space science, I think that the common factor is that you need a lot of patience.
Patience.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. To do science, to do art, you need patience. And
okay.
You need, I would say, dedication. Yes.
Yes.
And then another thing that is important is that perhaps you need to have to do science and to do paintings. You need to have a kind of picture in your mind first to know what you want to paint and what you want to do.
All right.
And then so in science we always talk about road map. You have a map and
you follow it.
You follow it. And painting is the same because you start by sketching,
yes.
And you put the colors on. And the painting is interesting in the sense that the difference is that for painting, the color somehow take on its own life. Yeah, and whatever color you put in, somehow it presents itself. But unfortunately, in science, you cannot do that because you put two different things together, they won't work.
No.
So, but still, it needs a lot of dedication, and painting is hard in the sense that because you have to fight. There are lots of things you don't get it right, and then you kind of trying to do it again and again. It's the same thing with science, that you have to try to overcome many obstacles.
Yes.
Yeah. And painting is that you have to paint it, one stroke after another, one by one, and the same thing with science.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think one of the possible similarities between the two is when we look at space science, it is, somebody call it the last frontier. And there's a lot of things that we do know about space science, but there are also a lot of things that we don't yet know about space science. It is something that still continues to explore, to be developed. The same thing with painting, because how you perceive, for example, a person, a particular scenery, or a particular object is very different from the way I perceive it. Do you try to draw on the similarities that mentioned, maybe using the imaginary powers and also try to be creative in the pursuit of both these?
Well, you said it right, because in science, or in space science, in astronomy,
yes,
and we try to explore, to investigate, to search to understand the mystery of nature, of our environment.
Okay.
And in art, you try to explore, but the target is not nature itself, not just nature itself, but rather the human nature.
Of course.
Yeah, the human nature is even harder to explore, to understand than nature itself. Yes. But on the other hand, painters, the important thing, I think the way I admire them is that they just by themselves, single-handedly, they can present what they think of human nature to you. And through their eyes, through their paintings, you try to understand yourself more and deeper. Yeah, I think that's the greatness of some of the real great painters. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm just a learner, student.
You're too modest. We understand that some of your paintings are currently on display at the Yushan National Park. We also understand that most of your paintings that you do the scenery of Taiwan. Is that true? I mean, you're covering the different beautiful spots around the island, and that becomes the major subject of your paintings.
Well, I'm fortunate enough to work as a scientist,
yes.
And therefore I have opportunities to go to meetings, different places, different countries.
Travel, yes.
So therefore, the way I used to do is that I would take a camera with me. Mm-hmm. So there's the scenery, landscape, or people I think that is interesting to me. So I took a picture.
Okay.
And take home, and then when I have time, I just use the photo, to paint, and of course with my interpretation.
Of course.
And that's the way I do with my paintings. As a result, my paintings cover a number of places, Europe, America, and China, and of course now that I have been in Taiwan for more than 10 years now, 12, 13 years. So of course, that many of the work I did, as far as the painting is concerned, have to do with Taiwan.
Okay.
Yes.
What of all the places that you have visited, where are some of your favorite places?
You mean Taiwan
or
in the world?
In Taiwan and also outside of Taiwan?
Well, it's hard to say because I would, being diplomatic, I would say I like every place I go.
But I understand that you were born in Nanjing.
Yeah,
but you grew up in Hong Kong and Macau.
Yes.
And also went to school in the United States.
Yes.
And so you've been, all these, people that are very popular in terms of both, for leisurely purposes or for meetings of, business purposes. And then, do you have a favorite city or particular scenery of all these places?
Well, I used to say that, I used to tell my students that we once says that home is where your heart is.
Of course.
So therefore, if my heart is here, then it is my home, and then you call it home because you like it. Yeah. And I think I'm getting to be liking Taiwan more and more.
Yes.
Yes. And then but other place I like, I might call it my home. Second home at least would be San Diego.
San Diego.
Yeah, California. Yeah.
Okay,
because
cool.
I went to graduate school there.
Okay.
And then I met my wife.
Okay, good.
My wife there, and then my first daughter was born there.
Good.
And her first daughter was born there. So therefore, that more or less become the one place where I have family. Family there. Yeah.
Okay. And let me ask you then. Of all the places that you have visited, of all the subjects or sceneries that you have painted. Was there anything in particular that stood out in your mind that brings back the most fond memories or of a particular trip, meeting, or people? You mentioned about San Diego. Now I suppose you go back there quite often. You mentioned about staying in Taiwan over 12 years now, and maybe there are one of these places that you visited. You took a picture, you came back and did a painting on it, and that brought back, some stories or, people that you talked to or things, anything.
Well, interesting enough, you might not believe it, but the places I always stuck in my mind are the places where I wanted to paint, but I have no time to paint them yet. So the place I think that one of those places would be New Zealand. Yeah, New Zealand, because I spent about 3 weeks traveling from north to south with my wife Diana, and then visiting my former professor and his family, and it was a great trip. So there, and New Zealand in a way is very much like Taiwan. That they call it the land of a white cloud. This is island. Yeah. but then it's much less populated than Taiwan. So when you drive along the highway, you see the scenery just great, the clouds everywhere. But I would say that for painting, the clouds are the most beautiful thing, because it's so changeable. And then it's just like life.
Okay, but how come you didn't come up with a painting about the scenery that you saw in New Zealand yet? Is there something that is still in the planning stage?
I still plan to do that because there was a great summer because we for a long time I seldom travel with my wife.
Yeah, your family. Yes.
For the and visiting my professor, my teacher.
All right.
And then what was so say it wasn't memorable, but rather for me is stuck in my mind because after this summer visit, both of them fell very sick. Yeah, so that was kind of a kind of I would say the milestone in my life.
Okay, yeah. Good. We understand that you are an internationally renowned scholar.
Well,
and you must spend a lot of time, doing your academic pursuit. But you also need to find time to pursue other things like oil painting. How do you balance, or how do you manage your time?
Well, I think that luckily, in Taiwan we have New Year.
Yes.
Christmas, a little bit Christmas.
And summer.
And then we have a summer. Man, being in academic circles, one of the luxury you could enjoy is the summer vacation.
Time, yes.
Yeah, and then sometimes even the winter break. So I try to make use of that. Yeah.
Okay, good. We're going to take another break on our program, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Professor Ye Yongxuan from the National Central University's Institute of Space Science, who's also a renowned painter here in Taiwan. I'll see you in just a few minutes. Welcome back to the second segment of today's program here on the Taiwan Outlook. I'm your host, Ray Guo. We will continue our conversation with Professor Ye Yongxuan, who is a professor at the Institute of Space Science of the National Central University here in Zhongli, Taiwan. Professor Yip, we understand that most of your academic articles that were published in the publication of Nature and Science were mostly related to the so-called Cassini-Huygens project. You were one of the 3 initiators of the project that was first proposed back in 1982. And for those of us who are very ignorant about this, space sciences, can you tell us the background about the project? Why did you propose it, and how did the project come about?
Okay, when I was in graduate school in San Diego, as I mentioned earlier, that was in the early 70s.
Okay.
It was just at the beginning that the planetary science has become a real discipline in the sense that because in the past we can only look at the planets like Jupiter or Saturn using the telescope, which is just a faint dot, and then but in the early 70s. The Voyager spacecraft were launched, and then from Jupiter to Saturn to Uranus and Neptune, all the way to the outer space.
Yes.
And in my generation, of the students, grad students who were studying astronomy and planetary science, were lucky enough that more or less, almost like the saying that following the footstep of the spacecraft from one planet to another, so that just overnight, following the spacecraft, you could see from just a dot become a real world. You can see the whole planet,
of course,
whole ring system in front of your eyes. So that really make a very strong, deep impression on me and actually also on my fellow students and young scientists. So therefore, that kind of experience or deep impression, and you could never really shake off. And so, later, a few years later, when I was working in Germany at the Max Planck Institute for Astronomy,
Okay.
And I had the chance to propose, to make proposal to ESA. So I just took the initiative, to write proposal.
But how did you persuade, NASA in the United States and also the European Space Agency to accept your proposal and then pursue the study of Saturn? How did you come up with the courage, let's say, to try to persuade these two leading space agencies in the world to accept your proposal?
Well, if I were a magician, I would tell you this is a trade secret. I will tell you.
It's okay. We're not in the same field together.
No. Firstly, the scientific. When you do such a, this whole project is still running.
Yes,
still running.
Still ongoing. Yes.
And but at the time of its launch in 1997, the cost for this mission was already $3.5 billion US dollars. Yeah, 3.5.
So at the time, it was already 3.5 billion.
So it's and I would say that from then on, there will be no more space mission as expensive, as large. Of course, that means that you need to have very good scientific, reason to do it. Yeah, and then you said that we have to put the ESA and NASA together to do this jointly, and in Chinese we used to say that the crisis means opportunity.
Of course.
危机. We always try to comfort ourselves by saying that. Turns out there was really a crisis at that moment because just before our proposal, a couple of years back, ESA and NASA, they were not talking to each other.
No.
In fact, once you say, some circles, they hate each other because of some unfortunate incident. Yeah. But just because of that, the scientists on both sides try to see in that because the administrators they don't talk to each other, but they want to talk to other side, but because of phase or because something protocol they could not do it so straightforwardly. So they give us scientists the opportunity. So they use us. We were being used
as a bridge,
a
conduit.
So then, as we because of that, we also make use of the opportunity.
Okay.
So then and plus so it's a politically, that turns out to be almost just help them, to break the ice, and then adding to it is a really great mission, real science. And
yes.
So somehow, just make it into real thing. Yeah.
Yes. Of course, this is a very significant, a very meaningful project, in terms of the pursuit of the study of Saturn. But the fact of the matter remains is, this is something that nobody has ever experienced or explored before. What made you at least have a certain level of confidence, thinking that this is something, since it's still ongoing after 30 years, this is something that it's going to work, and this needs to be done, and this is something that's good for the humankind. What made you so certain?
Well, I mean, I told you that if I were a magician, I would. The secret is that you have to be confident of yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the confidence is the most precious thing that our young people could learn from their their teachers, and then with confidence, I think that you could almost do anything.
Okay.
Because when you tell people such a gigantic project, and you don't have in mind how much it would cost.
Okay.
What you have in mind is actually, how interesting that would be, what kind of scientific breakthroughs that would bring,
Yes.
And then and in a way that we already make a difference in the human history, by bringing so much new knowledge, into our civilization.
Okay. As far as you can share with the audience who are watching our program today, what are some of the scientific data that were collected, in the mission that's useful, for example, explaining the origin of life on Earth, or explaining some of the things that we don't know yet about the solar system?
Okay, I mean, this is like this because in science, especially in our field, in planetary science and Earth science, I may say the astronomy, you always have to compare different places, different systems.
Yes.
And I don't know whether later on we will have time to talk about the extrasolar planets, which we find many of them now. And,
really?
and we are also thinking about whether there may be life, on those, you might call it ET,
Okay.
And then to solve those questions, to address those questions, you need to do scientific experiments. You have to build up your data.
Of course.
And then therefore we are actually using our own solar system as the laboratory. And going back to the Cassini Huygens mission, I think that one of the major revelations, one should say, or discoveries, or the understanding, is that on Earth we talk about our environment. We talk about hydrological process, cloud, ocean, river, rains. But water is the medium.
Of course.
Yeah. And Titan, which is the largest satellite, the largest moon of Saturn, has also rain, cloud.
Really?
In places we have lakes and oceans. One can say that. But Titan's surface is so cold, so the water would all be frozen into ice.
Okay.
They cannot froze, so you have no liquid as water, no liquid water. So instead, what drives this process, rain, cloud, river, and all that, turns out to be, you would not perhaps would not be able to imagine, is methane. Methane, it turns out at that temperature, it could still exist in liquid form.
Okay.
So therefore, we find that in a way we find that in the universe, in the natural environment, there's other kind of material which could shape a planet's environment. Yes.
All right.
And then one might ask whether such environment with liquid, with all these activities, could also maintain a biosystem.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the next question.
All right. Yeah. And we understand that a lot of people refer to you as a renowned, astronomer, around the world, and also they look at you as the father of exploring Saturn, and also some people call you, the father of Cassini. So the project Cassini-Huygens must mean a lot to you. And we also understand that you name your daughter Cassini.
Not really.
Not really. Okay.
Yeah,
well, then tell us the story behind that.
See, I think that I think some of the audience might remember one famous statement by President Jack Kennedy.
Yes.
He said, "Failure is always an orphan, and success has many fathers." Yeah. And since the Cassini-Huygens is a success, but I should say that I'm only one of the fathers. And honestly speaking, there are many fathers, thousands of fathers. But usually what when referred to us is that there are many three fathers, three of them.
Okay.
One American, one French, and myself. Because we were the scientists who really pushed the planning. And convince NASA and ESA to work together.
Okay. Are you still involved in the project in some capacity?
Yes. I'm still involved in the scientific experiments.
Okay. And how often do you meet up with your fellow colleagues and discuss your results?
Try to be as often as possible. I think we met usually at meetings.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay, good. All right. We're going to take another break on our program, and when we come back, we will continue this conversation with Professor Ye Yongxuan from the National Central University's Institute of Space Science. I'll see you in just a few minutes. Welcome back to our program here on the Taiwan Outlook. I am Wu Ruiguo. we will continue our conversation with Professor Ye Yongxuan, who is a professor of Institute of Space Science at the National Central University here in Zhongli, Taiwan. Professor, we understand that you came back to Taiwan in 1998, and then you've been teaching at the National Central University. And you were certainly very critical and very instrumental in terms of bringing up a generation of planetary scientists in Taiwan. How did you find that experience in the last 12 to 13 years? Meeting with young scientists who are interested in space science in Taiwan, and what are some of the problems that you see, as they pursue this field in Taiwan?
Well, I must take this opportunity and here to express my gratitude to Taiwan, and in particular National Central University for giving me the opportunity to come back to work.
Okay.
And I find my experience for last 12, 13 years extremely interesting and fruitful. So I would like some of you in the audience to come back, come back here to dedicate yourself to the education and scientific research here.
Good.
Because Taiwan gives you lots of opportunity, and that you cannot imagine, and in particular, as you mentioned that about the education training of the young generations, I think this is very much needed because if you look ahead in the next, so in space exploration and planetary science, we are not talking about day, month, even years. We are talking about decades.
Yes.
Like Cassini Huygens mission is starting in 1982.
It's over
and still running strong.
Yes.
But then I can assure you, in future, the future mission will even last longer. So more or less you have to now already we have missions handing from one generation to another. And in future we have to move to other stars. There will be multi-generation missions. And therefore to maintain the experience, maintain the knowledge from the older generation to younger one is the very critical part. And that's very unique in our field. In other field, you could not find such a necessity.
Yes.
And then that is perhaps also one reason why I sort of decided to come back. There are other reasons, but the one reason then when I was in Germany, and at that point in time, I thought that, see, look, all the missions, they are so long. I cannot really live to see them. But then I must have some younger people, to carry on. And then that's why, so over the last 10 years, 12 years, I would call that one of my major, I would say, achievement is that able to train a number of PhD students, and that they are, I would say I'm happy with them, I'm satisfied with them, and I'm proud of them.
Okay, And as we continue down this path, like you said, this is something that requires a lot of patience, persistence, determination, and also continuity. And do you think there are other areas that Taiwan, in a very competitive and globalized world, that we can do better, in terms of competing with scientists or cooperating with scientists from other parts of the world in this field of space science?
Well, I always told or trying to tell my students and even younger colleagues that to do science is to try to make use of whatever resource or facility you have
available
around your environment. And in addition, you should have the courage to create the new environment. And therefore, you examine what Taiwan has to contribute. I think Taiwan has a lot to contribute. Brain power.
Yes.
Even though we as professor teachers, you always feel that your students are not good enough, because it's only because subconsciously you compare not to yourself, but compare them to your professors, who are actually much better than you are. So it's not fair.
No.
But then when we have chance to send them abroad to visit, and then the hosts always told me how great they are. They are very, 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 very clever. They work very hard, and they want to have more. And so I think that our young people just great. They're just first rank.
Okay. And so, based on your experience in the last 12, 13 years in Taiwan, do you think Taiwan at the university and the research institutional level, are we ready to participate in some large-scale international project on planetary or astronomical projects? Are we ready?
Are we ready? I mean, you asked me, you could ask me that question in 1982,
Okay.
It's never ready because when we started in whole Europe, when we started talking about proposing for the Saturn mission, there were just a handful of experts.
Okay.
Yeah? And then you draw people in, yeah, and then you build up the community, and so. To answer you, it's never ready. You're never ready. Any good thing's never ready.
But you need to start.
Right. And then but then Taiwan's strength, as I said, I think what Taiwan needs a little bit more is trying to be, how I say it, more aggressive.
Okay.
Yeah. Trying not to worry about failures.
Okay.
Yeah. And have more confidence in yourself.
Okay. And we understand that in terms of space sciences, most of the support probably come from the public sector. And do you think, maybe compared with the experiences that you have accumulated in other countries, maybe our private sector can do a little more in terms of getting resources devoted in this area? Because nowadays, Taiwan is well known for its, science and research, but mostly in the area of telecommunications, semiconductor, and other things. But maybe not so much, in space sciences.
Right.
Do you think the private sector can do a little more?
Well, thank you very much for bringing up that question. That question, because see, I'm besides the Institute of Space Science at the Central University, I'm also at the Institute of Astronomy.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I spend a lot of time on astronomy.
Okay.
And you're right that now so far we derive most of our support from government
funds.
From basically it's the National Science Council,
Yes.
which is generous in itself, but there's that much you can do because it's the budget limitation and so on. And in comparison, I would say that it's the same thing, for astronomy, and in America, astronomy is number one in the world, but a lot of that impetus came from the private sector, from donations.
Of course.
Yeah, and then I therefore hope that it's not just our rich, industrialists in Taiwan, but even whoever listening to this program, could help.
Yes.
I mean because astronomy and space science are the two things which could be most easily understood by the youngsters.
Okay.
And it's important to capture the imagination and curiosity of the youngsters when there's still time to do it. And you can understand that if a society without imagination and creativity is dead.
Yes.
Yeah. And
it will stay static.
It's brain dead. So I think that for Taiwan to go forward, to keep its momentum.
Yes.
You need to have pump more creativity, and imagination into the young people's mind.
Of course.
And then everybody's doing it. I mean, like what the American. I mean, the rich people in America, they are not stupid,
No.
They know that they putting the money, into this field, actually is protecting themselves.
Yes.
It's of their own interest
exactly.
to give money to build up this field.
Yes.
So I think they are very clever,
Okay.
and I hope that our rich people are just as clever.
Okay, we will. And we want to ask you another thing is another dream that you are building, which is the 2-meter telescope at the Lui Observatory. Can you tell us a little bit about this dream? Okay.
There's one other thing that we have been steadily doing, spending our effort for the last 15 years at National Central University.
Okay.
And I must thank my colleagues, and they are the one who are really doing all the work. And we start from a Professor TAIWAN Xiang, Professor TAIWAN Xiang, if he's listening to this program. Okay. And we thank him a lot. It was like 20 years ago, he came back from America as a young scientist, and he did a site survey. Okay. He went for all the mountain tops in Taiwan, and finally he settled down on the Luling Mountain, which is a plateau, flat. I mean just a tabletop, very tiny tabletop actually. Okay. And he wanted to build a small observatory there. Okay. And so when I came back, and when some of my colleagues came returning, and we decided, when just by chance we get some grant money from Ministry of Education, and from the National Science Council, and we used that to build a observatory for 1 meter telescope. Okay. And turns out to be very, 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 very fruitful. Okay. Yeah. And it's very good for us to have in Taiwan itself, having such an observatory that you can see. Okay. You could
Professor Ip, I'm going to ask you to pause right there because we need to take another break on our program. And when we come back, we will continue with this, story about the Luling Observatory and about putting a 2 meter telescope on top of it. I'll see you in just a few minutes. Welcome back to the final part of today's program here on the Taiwan Outlook. I'm your host, Wu Ruiguo. We will continue our conversation with Professor Ye Yongxuan, who is a professor at the Institute of Space Science of the National Central University here in Zhongli, Taiwan. Professor Ye, I'm sorry I had to interrupt you regarding the story behind the 1 meter telescope on the Luling Observatory. Please continue.
Yes, 1 meter telescope, is actually a small telescope. Okay. And they're very limited thing you can do, but then only if you do it well. Okay. So we have been using that to look at the objects in our solar system, like comets and asteroids. Turn out to be is a good approach. Right. For instance, we have you might have read that we have found hundreds of asteroids. Yes. And then we even name many of them after the famous important persons or places in Taiwan. That make everybody happy. But then the important thing with this 1 meter telescope is that we use that to train students to learn how to do observation, how to plan, or how to compare, using data to compare with a larger telescope from outside. Okay. And then with this experience, we then want to step up. Because as you know that now the largest telescope in the world now is 10 meter in diameter, and we try to fill the gap in between, and the 2 meter is nearly the largest, not yet the largest, but almost the largest telescope you can put in the island in Taiwan. Yes. And we try to reach the envelope and then using that as more or less as a leverage. Okay. Yeah. So we now using that the plan we haven't got it yet. We got stuck into some environmental problem, but I think it's getting to be solved. Okay. But then we use that to the 2 meter telescope. Use it as a tool to cooperate. Okay. With large projects from outside. Yes, so it's a platform, Okay. And then so as a result that if I look back in hindsight, I think that the progress in astronomy development in Taiwan is rather rapid, astonishingly rapid. In the sense that over the last 10 years, from nothing into we have 2 meter telescope, and we also engage in a very large project called PanSTARRS, which is the largest optical project. Right now, international project. And then we are thinking also in giving us another 10 years, 5 to 10 years. We will be, if luck, with support, general support from government or from private sources. Yes. We could very well reach even to the top. Basically to the top of the astronomy. Okay.
We understand that, Professor Ip, other than your academic research, you have also been the vice president of the university system of Taiwan for 2 years. What in your capacity as a university administrator, what are your observations about the younger generation of science and research or students who are looking into these fields? What are some of their strengths, and also conversely, what are some of their weaknesses?
Let me just say a few words about the university system of Taiwan,
yes,
which is composed of 4 campuses. It's Tsinghua University, and then Jiaotong University,
yes,
and Yangmin, and of course as a National Central University.
Yes.
And I think this system is built, developed with the purpose of encouraging cross-campus, multi-university cooperation. Okay. And I think it's a very important thing because if you look at the advanced countries, like in Europe, in America, in Japan, you find that many of this scientific work come from a team of people from different universities.
Yes.
And here in Taiwan, we don't have the habit.
No.
And lacking that habit, lacking that tradition alone, more or less set you aside.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I think that therefore we try to have this system. I mean, at least the wise men who create this system have this thought. I think it's excellent. I think that only so that can we encourage more multi-university cooperation. Of course, always competition and cooperation is the same, but you need to have cooperation to do big things. Right?
All right.
Yeah. And
yes.
So I think that I can see progress already,
Yes, in that area. Okay, good. And Professor Ip, you also mentioned the fact that since coming back to Taiwan, you've witnessed the progress, the rapid progress that we've made in the area of space science, and certainly is something very encouraging. Maybe in the future we have more and more younger generation of students that would join this field of research and studies. But what would be the word of advice as somebody who has studied, space, astronomy for over, 30 years, and as a pioneer, what would be your word of advice for younger generations who might be watching our program today,
yes,
who are thinking of becoming a part of this space exploration mission in the future?
Well, I think doing science is like life itself, and then the kind of philosophical to say that because if I tell you you must be focus on one thing, and maybe next thing I tell you should not focus on only one thing. So it's like in Chinese we say yin and yang,
Yes.
yin and yang. Yeah. Sometimes when you have a good problem, I mean the main thing is that you have to make your own calculation. Usually you want to have a good result. You have to put certain amount of effort in it. In science, it takes about a few years, 5-10 years. And then once that is done, once you reach a certain level, maybe you will still have the luxury, and you might be best you change a new field. Yeah, and that's for the grown up. For the young students, I think that one problem with our own system is that we try to identify their interest too soon, once you get to first year of the university college, you have to say you're a physics student, you're a literature student, you cannot change anymore. I think that perhaps is not necessary. Necessary. I mean, even at that age and until you're say 20-some years old, you should have a range of interest, and allowing you to be flexible, to change to different directions. But what that means that to maintain that capability, you do have to work very hard. Yes,
of course.
Yeah, because you have to be viable once you have the opportunities.
Okay.
And how to reach that point is I don't know.
Depending on the individual involved, I think.
Right.
And also, Dr. Ip, you mentioned earlier about inter-campus cooperation within Taiwan, but also there's a lot of international cooperation in the field as well. For our students to be more internationally oriented and integrated, you've often suggested that they should broaden their vision, horizons. What would be some of the recommendations that you would make to them as they pursue to become more internationally oriented, like study a foreign language, or reading more foreign language materials, or interaction at the international conferences with scientists from all over the world? Because you have a multicultural background, you know, so would that be something that you would recommend to younger generations?
Yes, I mean, the fundamental things that you have to learn 1 or 2 foreign languages.
Okay.
And but then the main thing is not to say that you just for the sake of learning languages. No. The main driving force is that you want to tell people, to communicate with people.
Of course.
To communicate yourself to people, to show your assistance, right? That's the purpose. You know, if you don't, because other people, they don't learn Chinese. So then you say, okay, I'm smart, you know, I'm good. I learn English. I learn French, and I talk to you in English and French, and tell you what I think. Yeah, only so that you could convince people. Yes, and other thing, of course, is a language is like a key. Yes. To a completely foreign, strange world, and then of course, you might say that the language, like we might speak English with accent or speaking Chinese with accent, but that's okay. Yes. Yeah, because a key is a key. Yes. You just open the door, you go in, and it's a complete new thing for you. Yeah. And so I think that I really encourage, you know, because right now I can see that the standard, the level of English is not going up. Yes. Actually going down. Yes. And there's a worry. Yes. There's worry.
Yeah, so we should ask people watching our program more often. But finally, for our program today, Dr. Ip, let me ask you that, you know, I mean, you know, I'm still, you know, a little astonished by the fact that you're able to do both, you know, your academic pursuit and also your ability to, you know, do oil paintings. And what would be, you know, some of the recommendations that you could make to our TV viewers who are watching our program today, if they are thinking of doing, you know, maybe not necessarily the 2 things the same way, but they're thinking of doing multiple things at one time, what would be your recommendation?
I tell the truth, you know, when I'm talking about science, some of my colleagues would just say that you're saying nonsense. You're just talking about paintings.
Okay, okay. But that means that you draw inferences from, you know, one to the other. You know?
I said that I might have a little bit more advantage than other colleagues, people, because I saw, you know, I saw when I start something, I have a picture in my mind. Yes. Yeah, when I start a project, I sort of say, you know, this is the framework. You know,
yes,
that's
the
why
end result
I want
that
to reach.
You want. Yes.
And then for other people, they would just go one step at one time, and then without knowing what's the end point. Yes. Yeah, but knowing the end point is very important.
Of course, yes. And Professor Ip, it's truly been an honor and pleasure to have you on the program today. I certainly want to wish you all the success in your personal and professional endeavors in the future.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I want to thank you for watching our program today. I'll see you next time on MacroView Television. Thank you. Bye-bye.